And it's still item number 10. If you have space on the other page, you can continue or you can start something fresh. Now, if I asked you how many or how far away from the school that you live, what unit of measurement would you give me? If I said how far away do you live from the school, you would tell me a number of what, Isabella? Miles, okay? If I said how far is it between my feet and JaCameron's feet, you would give me a unit of what? Somebody raise your hand and tell me. If we were going from here to here. Ethan? Feet. If I said how long is your pencil, you would give me a unit of what, Madison? Inches. Okay? Now, what's crazy is the United States is not the only, but one of the only countries that uses those units of measurement. Okay? If you took a trip to England or Ireland or Scotland or anywhere else in the world pretty much, and they asked how many miles, they would look at you like you were crazy. They don't use miles. Okay? Can anybody remember what unit of measurement they may use instead of miles or inches or feet? Corey? They wouldn't use inches. Ethan? Meters. They use meters to measure distance. What do they use to measure weight? They don't use pounds or ounces. What do they use? Kate? That would still be, meters would still be the base word there. So that would still be length. Cameron? That would still be meters. Corey? What do they use to measure weight though? What's the base word? So meters was length. What would weight be? Ethan? Grams. So grams would be weight. And then what do they use to measure how much something will hold? We do use this one because if you go to Walmart and you want a thing of Mountain Dew, you usually buy a 2 blank of this. Jacori? Not a kilogram, that would be weight. Jacorian? Liter. Okay? Now, those are all part of what's called the metric system. So I want you to write this down. So this is all part of the metric system. So we have to know how to do the customary units, which is what we use in the United States. And we also have to have some knowledge about the metric system as well. Okay? Now, it's built on 3 units. So I want you to start in the very center of your page, and I want you to write the word units. And like Ethan said, that's a meter and a gram. And then like Jacorian said, a liter. Those are our 3 base units. Those would all represent 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram. Okay? Now, this yardstick would be very similar to a meter. Okay? So if I said to get from here to Publix, it would take forever to lay this down and measure all the way from here to Publix, correct? Yes. So there are different words that would still have meter in it. Can anybody think of any other words that still involve the word meter? Corey? Centimeter. Now centimeter is going to be smaller. That's a good one. Ethan? Any others that you can think of? Centimeter. Anything else that ends in meter? Not sure. All right. So, kilometer. Okay, so let's talk about the lower ones first. So I want you to put deci, centi, and milli. Sure you're listening. Now, this deci, centi, and milli are the prefix. It gives information about what size, meter, liter, and gram. You can put any of those words behind there, okay? So let's say we're just stick with meter. A decimeter is 10 times smaller. 10 times smaller than a regular meter. Okay? A centimeter is 100 times smaller than a meter. A millimeter is 1,000 times smaller. Okay? So notice, all of these going this way are getting smaller. That's going to be important for you to remember those words, deci, centi, and milli, whether it's a milligram, milliliter, milliliter, it's all smaller than the base word. It represents 1. All right, going the other way, we have a deca, like a decagram, or a decameter, or a decaliter. We have a hectoliter, hectogram, or hectometer. You're not going to see that one quite as often. And then the most common one is a kilo. So like a kilogram, kilometer, or kiloliter. I'll let you catch up in just a little bit. Now, a deca is going to be 10 times bigger. So let's see if anybody's caught on to the pattern yet. A hectometer, or a hectogram, or a hectoliter, Ethan, is going to be how many times bigger? 100 times bigger. And then a kilogram, kiloliter, kilometer, McKinley, is going to be what? 1,000 times bigger. So just like we did going this way, they're going to get bigger. Okay. Now, it's important that you know not only how many times, but each direction represents larger numbers and smaller numbers. That's going to be super helpful when we get into our work here in just a little while. Okay? So, let's take something like this. So I want you to write this down. 18.2 kilograms is equal to blank grams. Now think back to yesterday. The first thing we have to ask ourselves is which one is the bigger unit. So think about it for a second, and somebody raise your hand and tell me, what's bigger, a kilogram or a regular gram? Look at the chart that you made. That will help. Ja'Cory, which is bigger? A kilogram. A kilogram is 1,000 times bigger. So let's put a V on top of that because it's bigger. And a gram is smaller. So notice, we're going from a big unit to a small unit. Anytime I go from big to small, what do I do? We just said it just a second ago. Isabella? Multiply. So we're going to take 18.2 and we're going to multiply it by something. Can anybody tell me what you think you're going to multiply it by based on that chart? Janaya? 1,000, because it's 1,000 times bigger. Now look at our problem for just a second. Do I have to stack these up and multiply them? No, I can use our decimal trick. So Jackson, multiplication would make the decimal move to the... And how many times to the right on this one? 3. So I'm going to take 18.2 and I'm going to move it once, twice, and 3 times. Fill in with zeros, so our final answer should be 18,200. So do you see how using that chart can help you decide which one's bigger and which one's smaller and what to multiply or divide by? Okay, so let's try one more then. So let's put 0.08 liters is equal to blank milliliters. Now remember, the first question you ask yourself is which one is the bigger unit? We have to be able to identify that first before we do anything else. So Corey, which is bigger, a liter or a milliliter? Think about it. Here's the liter, here's the milliliter. A milliliter is 1,000 times smaller. Say again. a liter is bigger. So let's put a B on top of that and an S on top of that. So Ethan, we're going from big to small, so we're going to do what? Multiply. So now I'm going to do 0.08 times something. Using that chart, what am I going to multiply that number by? Michelle?
100?
Not 100, because that would be a centimeter. If I was going to a centimeter, you'd be right. Tyron? 1,000, because it's 1,000 times bigger. Okay. So again, we can use that decimal trick, Peyton. So multiplication makes us go to the, and how many times on this one? 3. So I'm going to start with my normal number and move it once, twice, and 3 times. So Peyton, how can I fill that empty space? So Peyton, what number have we created? 80. Very good. So the final answer should be 80 milliliters. Awesome. Okay. Let's switch it up a little bit, and I'm going to throw you a curveball and see if you can figure it out. So I want you to write this down. I want you to put when converting from small to big, I should, and I want you to see if you can fill in that blank correctly. Now think about it. Big to small, we said we would multiply. Now we're going from small to big. I'll give you just a second. Write the right word in the blank if you think goes there. All right, so Janiyah, big to small we multiply, but now we're going to go from small to big, so we're going to do what? Divide. We're doing the opposite. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I should divide. So let's see if we can solve 4 quick problems and then we'll break for lunch, okay? So I want you to write this down to start with. 35 days is equal to blank weeks. Now remember, the first question we ask is which one is the bigger unit? We're going to label them. So somebody raise your hand and tell me which is bigger, a day or a week? So Corey? A week. So let's put a B on top of that and then an S on top of days. So we're going from small to big on this one. So Isabella, are we going to multiply or divide? Divide. We just wrote that down. Okay. So Isabella, we're starting with 35, but think back to our notes from yesterday. We're going to take 35 and divide it by what? 7, because there's 7 days in a week. So Isabella, 35 divided by 7 would be 5. So 35 days is the same thing as 5 weeks. Very good.
So that means we've been in school for more than 35 days.
We have. All right, let's try another one then. So I want you to put 21 feet is equal to blank yards.
I've been in school for 7 days.
Again, the first question we're going to ask ourselves is which one is the bigger unit? So Khalil Harris, which one is bigger, a foot or a yard? A yard. Okay, so let's put a B on top of that and an S on top of this. So again, we're going from small to big, Corey, so that means we're going to do what? Divide. So it's going to be 21 divided by something. But think back to yesterday. How many yards or how many feet are in a yard? Khalil? Not 7. Tyron? 3. So Tyron, 21 divided by 3 would be 7. So our final answer should be 7 yards. So does everybody see how when you go from small to big, it's the opposite and we divide, okay? So let's try 2 more, but we're going to pull back in the metric system on this. So you might have to flip over to check. So I want you to write this one down. 6,802 grams there you go, is equal to blank kilograms. Now, the first question you ask always stays the same. Which one is the bigger unit? If you need to look at your chart, look back at it. Somebody raise your hand and tell me what's bigger, a gram or a kilogram? Madison? Kilogram. So we're going to put B on top of that and S on top of this. Okay, so we're going from small to big here. So Ethan, if we're going from small to big, that means we're going to do what? Divide. I'm going to take what we're starting with, 6,802. But Isabella, what are we going to divide it by? 1,000. Because there's 1,000 grams in a kilogram. So Isabella, which way is the decimal going to move? And how many times? 3. But Isabella, there's not a decimal there. So where could we add one? Behind the 2. And we can move it once, twice, and 3 times. So our final answer should be 6 and 802 thousandths kilograms. All right.
So I just wanted to see, when it, I'm just trying, on the last page, when you, can you tell me what, like, when you put under metric system, can you tell me what those are, like, what, on the bigger side, what is it?
It's deca, hecto, and kilo.
So how do you know when it's, what work you go with?
What work? Because then it partners with the number. So a kilogram is 1,000 times bigger than a gram. A hectogram is 100 times bigger than a gram, and a decagram is 10 times bigger. Now, I don't know who made those words up, but that's just the words we have to go with. Does that make sense? Kinda. All right, let's try one last one together. So I want you to put 509 liters.
I can't see them.
Thank you. Is equal to blank decaliters. Again, you may have to look back at your chart. That's why we wrote it down. What is bigger, a liter or a decaliter? Peyton? A decaliter is bigger. Because look right here. Here's deca, and it's 10 times bigger than a regular liter. So let's put a B on top of decaliter and an S on top of that side. All right? So Peyton, we're going from small to big here, so we're going to do what? Divide. So it's going to be 509 divided by. But Peyton, what are we going to divide by on this one? 10. So we're going to add that decimal. We're going to move it to the left one time. So our final answer should be 50 and 9/10 decaliters. So thumbs up if you think you're on the right track. Hey,
Can I have a blue notebook?
a blue math book.